How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to King Sales, the podcast series where we help people transform their trauma into triumph. On today's episode, I have two very special guests joining me. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Black student college athlete experience. And without further ado, I'm going to allow these fine gentlemen to introduce themselves.
My name is Alexis Raekwon Green. I just graduated from Delaware State University. I played football for 14 years of my life, so more than half of my whole life I played football. And right now I'm studying to get my master's in education leadership. And I'm a good guy, I'm cool, I say. And yeah.
Welcome to the show, brother.
What's up, everybody? I just wanted to first give a shout out to Rex for putting this together. My name is Marcus Gaspard. I'm a DSU graduate as well, Wesley alumni. I played football for probably 16 years. Like Raekwon, I played for most of my life. I graduated with a criminal justice degree, and I'm on to the next portion of my life now.
Awesome. Well, again, gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for joining me on today. For those that are tuning in and don't know, I was a track and cross-country runner for 8 years. I ran on the high school level and at the collegiate level. And essentially, today is just going to be us, having a dialogue on our experiences as being Black athletes. And one thing that we all share in common is we all attended a PWI before the great acquisition happened.
Yeah.
We'll go a little bit into detail about what the great acquisition is a little later in the episode. But without further ado, let's jump right into it.
All right.
What were your dream schools for your specific individual sport? Like, I know that y'all both play football, but what, obviously when you were applying and stuff, and like when you were, taking your SATs and filling out those common applications for college and stuff, like what schools were you guys looking at?
For me, it was more of what school could I play football at. I wasn't really into all the college football hype and like what schools were like the biggest schools. I mean, obviously now that I look back as an adult, I wish I would have invested more into going to maybe a top tier school. But for me at the time, this level of football really drove me to go to any school. So I had a couple offers. I had a D2 school in West Virginia. I visited out there. I just didn't feel comfortable out there because it was in the middle of really nowhere. West Virginia is some racism still down there, so I was weary towards that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I visited Wesley, it kind of gave me that family atmosphere, and that's what I was really looking for. And it kind of made me feel like my high school team. So I'm like, let me go. When I got here, I started noticing, Wesley's a kind of a small school compared to everybody else, and like Michigan and Alabama's. But for me, it was just about playing football in college. That was my ultimate goal.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I wanted to go D1. Unfortunately, I didn't know that my grades had to be, a certain level. I didn't realize it later down my career, like as a junior in high school. I was getting looks from D2 schools, visiting D1 schools, and it was just like, the grades. So I went to Wesley College because it was like Marcus says, like a family environment. And I was very highly recruited. I came in as a freshman. I was with the second team, like off the rip from the beginning. College, it really humbled me because although Wesley is like, a D3 school, man, they before I came, it was like a tradition of winning. Like they was like that. Wesley College was the school to go for football.
Especially D3.
Especially D3.
Yeah.
I remember, like, I was, my first game I played as a freshman, it was, like, the number one game for D3 in the nation. I'm like, wow, this little school, like, I'm thinking we just killed that. We played double, so like that.
Yeah.
And we destroyed them. But, yeah, that's definitely my upbringing. I wanted to go D1, but, my grades wasn't there. And it was definitely a humble experience. It made me more eager to get better because it was like I came in, like I said, with a second team, and it's like when I came in, it was the depth chart, like 5 depth charts for like on defense. I said, what is this? Like
we had a lot of DBs.
We had a lot of DBs, and it was crazy. It was humbling for me because my story is crazy. I just remember when I first came, I was with the second team, and this one person that was behind me, he like took my spot, and I was like, dang. This man took. I was like, yo, that's when I really started thinking about this football. So I was like, yo, I gotta go harder. Like,
Yeah.
these people they not slouches. So definitely, that was my experience. But yeah, I eventually Division III, so Wesley College.
Just to piggyback off what Raekwon said too, when I was going through the recruiting process, it was like a harsh reality to me early that my grades really weren't up to par to even play Division 1. Not to put blame on my high school coaches or nothing, but just during the time of high school, we really weren't pushing for the best grades, and we were still allowed to play. And that's one thing I look at, like maybe they should have took us out if we weren't academically at where we need to be at. Because now playing at D3, I knew just from my output on D3, I knew I probably could have played at Division 1 school, and it's just all about the process too. It's when you go to a school, it's about starting from the bottom and working way up, just like you said, kind of being second, third string. I think we all kind of get caught up into like everybody's gonna start day one, and that's definitely not how it is.
Yeah, for sure.
It's possible.
That's That's very true. Like I noticed, my freshman year, I was actually dorming with a defensive back, and he like was telling me how hard Coach Drass and the recruitment team like goes with trying to make sure that he had as much depth as possible. Because I didn't realize it until I got to Wesley that but football was Wesley College. Like it was literally the culture, and that's another thing that like I really enjoyed. Like even though we didn't have like that full HBCU experience, like going to the games on Saturday, like a lot of the stuff that I used to see on TV, I was actually able to like experience it. And I was like, wow, this is really, really amazing. So and I feel like you guys kind of already jumped ahead and answered the second question that I was gonna ask, but obviously you have like all these expectations in your mind and your head of how you think college, especially being a collegiate athlete, is going to be. So how did those expectations kind of live up to the reality of what you experienced, or did it kind of wake you up to realize like, okay, maybe this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be?
It definitely woke me up 100%. Like I said, I came in because I came from the culture I came from. Like a lot of people went D1 or they was good after high school, so it was like, that's what I had to do, But I'd say the expectation was I wanted to start as a freshman, but I realized, like, everybody's good. It's like, I'll tell any younger person, like, it's possible. Like, you really can do it, Now they really make sure they politic and they really make sure now. But, like, Wesley is, I'm going to put you out there, and if you don't perform, like, they will not play you. So I was humbled from there, and just, I just had to practice, live up to my name. And that was kind of hard because, I was by myself. Like, the coaches, unfortunately, Coach Drash passed away. So the DB coach was Coach Drash, right? Before, so it was different with, the coaching staff, and it's like, oh, you got to show me rather, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rather than, so it was more of that, So I had to work a lot more than I thought I had to. Because, like, you had to really, you had to perform.
Yeah.
So
I would say I kind of had the same expectations coming in. I think every high school player does because when you're a high school player and you're getting ready to go to college, most of the time you're the best player on your team or you're one of the top players on your team. So you think when you first get to college, it's going to be like, oh, I'm a great athlete. I can just hop right into it. But I think what I took for granted back then was the mental side of the game and the X's and the O's. And once I started sitting in the film room with Coach Drass and kind of really breaking down film and learning where I'm supposed to be, and it was deeper than that. In high school, I played a lot of instincts and talent, and that carried me through. But when you go to college, there's real game plans, and it's like we're grown men now, so everybody's trying to win. So there's game plans in check, and if you don't know what you're doing out there, you never really could be yourself. And I feel like that kind of held me back at first, because mentally I would get on the play and I'm thinking like, oh, I have to do this. If they come out on this, boom, boom, boom. But then it's like, once I got that down packed. It was more like, oh, I'm lining up. I already know what I'm supposed to be doing. Let me just play and be the best version of myself. And then also expectations is I kind of thought, when you're growing up, you think, oh, you're a college athlete. You can just go to college. They're gonna push you through the classroom. You're gonna automatically pass you. But that was a quick reality for me that school was its own beast in itself, and it's like
Yes.
you had to be locked in school too, especially on a Division III level where you're not getting as much media notice. It's like these teachers, at the end of the day, they see us as football players, but they also see us as students, and it's like you can't hand out free passes. This is college. People are getting paid a lot of money for this.
Mm-hmm.
So that was also a big expectation that kind of didn't really go the way I was, and I worked on it though. I believe I got better in the classroom over the years. But freshman year definitely was a struggle balancing both.
I like how you guys mentioned the importance, or the more so the academic side of being a student athlete, because I feel like especially with a sport as big and prolific as football, we often hear stories of like big D1 programs just pushing their athletes through so that they're good enough to keep up their qualifications to still play full time. And when I was doing research for this episode in particular, like I was actually a little bit surprised to see that D1 college athletes have like a 90% graduation rate. That statistic really like caught me off guard because of the generalizations and those stereotypes and those negative stories that we do hear in the media. And it made me realize, like, okay, if so many people are talking about the negative side of it, why aren't they talking about the positive side? And when I was looking at the black male student athlete graduation rate, we have a 56% federal graduation rate in comparison with the 44% of black males that are just students. And I was surprised. I was like, that's really crazy. But then also, too, I was like, well, if you think about it, a lot of the student athletes, regardless of race, have mandated study hour time. Like, you guys remember that freshman year? Like, yeah, it was necessary. Like, it was mandatory study time in the ARC. And I remember when I got to college, like, I'll be honest, I was a nerd. So like all of high school, like I was in the books, and like I was able to find like the right balance between doing my homework and studying and going to practice and putting in the extra work. When I came to college, I was like, whoa, this is completely different, because you got those mandated study hours now, and you're starting to see now that there definitely was more of an emphasis, and I would say just at Wesley, like we got that individualized attention with from our coaches and the tutors and the staff at the academic resource center. So which kind of leads me into my next question, like when you made that transition into being a collegiate student athlete, how were you able to find the right balance between being both a student and an athlete at the same time?
For me, finding the balance kind of was like I had to hit rock bottom. Like I got to the point where it was like there was a possibility that like I could flunk out of college. And I remember like a couple days before Coach Draz passed away, I had a phone call with him, and we were just basically going over it. And he was like, "You gotta get your stuff together in the classroom, or you're not gonna be able to play football." And like 2 days later, he passed away. And I think that was the point where I really hit me like, damn, football is so temporary. It's a child's game. Your education is forever.
Forever, bro.
It's forever. Education is power, man. Like, for real. Education is power. And I think as like student athletes, sometimes we take that for granted. Like, we think that football is everything. But like when you see that you could lose your life on any day, and it's like, dang, I need to continue my life, or football can end any day. You could get injured one day and football's gone, and it's like, what you gonna do if you don't have an education? I mean, so that was really the turning point for me, and from there on, it was more about just creating a structured schedule, and
that's crucial.
That was the biggest thing for me. Just having a schedule, just carving out time to do work, not just I have an hour, I can do it. This is due in 3 weeks. Okay, I'll just wait till the day before. And then like when I was stuck doing that, I found myself like in super stress mode. Like everything is due tomorrow, and I'm not gonna pass. So I'm up all night for 10, 12 hours just grinding out work, and I feel like I'm a fairly smart individual, so I was able to do that. But not everybody can do that because on top of doing the work, you have literally pounds of stress on your back because you know if I don't do this work, I'm probably gonna lose my scholarship. I'm losing my grant. I'm gonna get kicked out of school, and I just wasted $20,000. And $20,000 just doesn't come by like that.
You pay that back.
Yeah. How did you feel about that, Raekwon?
Yeah, just the educational side. It's funny because like I'm like my master's education leadership now, and it's funny because when I was in high school, man, my GPA was bad. I would be honest, like I had like a one. That's the junior year. I realized I had a 1.8 GPA, and I said, because I thought C's was like good. Like I thought that was okay. I just didn't like if I had a D. I didn't really know how the GPA system really worked. So I'm like, all right, C, cool. Like I didn't think it was that low, but a C is like not even a 2 point. A C is like a 1.7 or 1.8, like a regular C or C minus. And on our grade, and I was like, oh, that's all I need was a C. That's cool. And then I realized like I started getting looks. So I'm like, oh man, I gotta step it up from high school. And that's when I realized like okay. And then one thing about Wesley was that they like the educational side. A lot of times, kids are like not at the right math level or the right English level. So it was like they took that test and I started like lower where I was supposed to be at because if you can't get it in second grade, you're not gonna get it in fifth grade. And it was like personally for me, I didn't realize like how bad I was really struggling. So it was like Wesley really helped me with that educational side. Knowing like Marcus said, knowledge is key. That's the if after we stop learning, it's kind of like we stay stuck at a certain level. And I realized like from Wesley they helped me because I didn't realize how where I was. They pass you. If you get a C minus, that's cool. All you need is you just need a D in high school. It wasn't that was it. It don't matter. You don't have to have a C.
Right. And they raised the bar.
Yeah, college raised the bar for me. So it was like, oh wow, and like they had what's it called, the ARC.
Yeah, Academic Resource Center. Yep.
Yeah, that kind of was like, all right, I'm in a clean slate. I never had that. Like even in high school, now they implement it a lot more. But for me, like study hall was probably 30 minutes and nobody really did nothing. It was just like you sitting there playing around, like And college, like really, that's why it's good to be a college athlete because it's not just the athlete part. You don't realize what the small things they do, like the ARC and how you was able to have an hour in there, a day. You had to be there, or you would get in trouble. Like we would have to run if we didn't, make the ARC. And it was like it actually helped. It's kind of like for me. I guess to answer the question, I was kind of like forced, but it was for for the good for me, for my better. Yeah, if I wasn't put in those situations, I would not. And even to this day, I realized I have to continue to be in school and take it seriously, so I could really learn. I really learned a lot. I didn't realize it, but I did. In college rather than high school.
Definitely.
I remember when I worked my first job as like a 17-year-old, I met this older black man, and he's like, son, the best thing that you could do for yourself is be a lifetime learner. Whether that's through school, reading books, watching videos on YouTube or whatever. As long as you're a lifetime learner, you'll always be ahead of everybody else because no one else is. Sometimes people get stuck in their ways, like, okay, I already know this, I already know that, and that's that. Especially for us as black men, like once we get past a certain age, we're like, all right, I already got my solid knowledge of foundation. Like I'm just gonna rock out, and I definitely see that sometimes with, especially like older black men that were athletes in the past, like they're kind of just like, all right, you know what, it's my way or the highway, but. Now I'm learning like it really is important for us to really just prioritize education in whatever form that might be. So
also I think being in college and being an athlete, once you're outside of practice and stuff, you're around students, and that's why I respected you so much because you kind of gave me another side of college that I didn't expect myself to see myself in. That's why I was happy when you invited me into the Black Student Union. So I became around other people that actually cared about school and cared about their grades. And that just kind of like rubs off on you. It's like, I don't want to be that person that's like, just doesn't care nonchalant about school. But, I feel like sometimes in college, you have other people around you that could motivate you, and then more in high school it was just like I was hanging out always with the football players. We're always together. We were eating lunch together. We're going to class together. I'm hanging out with you together, and it's like there's nothing wrong with that. Those are my brothers, but not all of them were focused and aligned on education. And sometimes you got to step outside of your comfort zone, and that was my comfort zone to get around people that may not be interested in much as from football, but they're trying to better themselves and they're interested in this, and that kind of opened up my whole world to everything.
Wow.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
Like me and Raekwon and I were on a growth group on Wednesday night, and one of the things that we learned is like tribal thinking. Like when you're so used to being around the same people, doing the same thing every single day, like you become conformed to that. But the moment that you step outside of that and you surround yourself with different people, it's almost like you're like, whoa. Your mind opens up to like this brand new perspective, and it really allows you to see the world in a different light. And I feel like this is a really good segue into the next question that I have. Like obviously as black male athletes, especially for you two as footballers, like you know that it's your long-term goal is to hopefully play in the NFL, sign your rookie contract, and after that try and make it to 5 years so that you can really have like solidify your life. Exactly. But at what point did you see a career for yourselves outside of your sport? Was it like your freshman year, your sophomore year, your junior year? Did an injury cause it? Because like I'll go first. Like I remember I wasn't necessarily the fastest in the state when I was running in high school, but for the last couple of years that I was at my high school, like I was captain, and like I was either first or second on the team. So like that kind of got to my head. And then when I came to college, obviously you're surrounded by a whole bunch of other people, and you come to the realization like, okay, maybe I won't be able to make a professional career out of this, especially with running. Like it's already like pretty mediocre in terms of pay, like especially for like the professional athletes. So I already wasn't really as focused about that. But I definitely remember one. It was actually towards the end of my freshman year. Like I already was dealing with injuries. Like I really wasn't I didn't feel like I was getting trained optimally, and I just kept on getting hurt. And I remember talking to one of my teammates, and he was like, well, what happens if, and he was older, he was one of the older guys on the team. He's like, well, what if this doesn't work out for you? What if you don't have a collegiate running career? Like what will you do then? And then he was like, try and branch out, find a club or something, or try and become an RA. So he had a couple of his friends that were resident assistants. He was like, here, fill out the application. If you need a word of reference, like I'll definitely put in a good word for you, because like, and I'll let my friends know, and they can look out for you and stuff too. So I put in that application in January. I just came back from injury like at the beginning of December, and I was starting to feel like good again. Like I was feeling ready, like I was ready to compete. And at the end of February, I got hurt again, right before the outdoor season started. And I was crushed. I was like, yo, like I thought that, I was going to have like a long-term, collegiate career. But then I found out, like I went to the athletic trainer, and they took me to, they suggested that I go get x-rays and MRIs done, only to find out that like I just have really bad shins. So like trying to be a distance runner, you need to have strong shins in order to have a long career. So got injured, and then it's actually really crazy because 2 weeks later, I got a call up to interview to be an RA, and then 2 weeks after that, I became an RA, and that literally changed the whole trajectory of my collegiate career. Yeah, my life, literally. I was like, wow. And so it really helped me see, like, all right, the impact that I was able to have on a lot of the residents that, that I was able to oversee. Like, it made me realize, okay, life is bigger than just running. Like, it's just a season. And then you eventually move on to the next thing that's going to hopefully help you realize what your purpose, plan, and potential is. And then that will help bring you to the next level. So at what point did you guys see like a career for yourselves outside of your sport?
I just feel like I had good coaches. At first I didn't see anything outside of football. Like football was everything.
That's
like
real.
NFL is the only goal. And then as I got older, just kind of having conversation with coaches and other people who were really good in their sport, and not to say I was, and kind of understanding the chances of even becoming a college athlete are less than 2%.
Oh
and
yeah.
then the chances of going to the NFL probably split that in half. So it's like you gotta understand this. Even me playing college football was like me hitting the lottery, and
Mm,
for me, it was just I had good people around me that were really good in the sport that kind of told me like started preparing me mentally like you may not make it to the NFL. You gotta start thinking about what are you gonna do with life after, and then that's kind of when I started focusing more in on school and kind of understanding like what do I want to do after this, what do I see myself doing. And it's not that I have to step away from football. Maybe in the future. Right now, I'm stepped away from football, and the future I'll probably see myself coaching and stuff. But
yeah.
it came to a point too where football became more of a burden for me than it
Wow.
was making me happy anymore.
Wow.
And that was like the biggest point. I mean, and plus with the transition from Wesley to DSU, that was a big part. It's just because the process, and I understand what the process is, and going through the same process again, it just wasn't enjoyable for me. And physically and mentally, I know I had multiple concussions playing football, and it's like realistically, it's like, yeah, I could keep playing. I may make it to the NFL for a year or two, but how many more times am I going to bang my head against another man? And I know there's going to be a life after this. And it's like, I think
Wow.
black athletes, we really take that for granted. Like, your brain is everything. And if you, in football, the sad reality of it is a violent sport.
Yeah.
And I always look at it like, I walked away from the game, but I was blessed. I never had no major surgeries, and you know about this probably better than anybody. I walked away with no major surgeries. I have a few lingering injuries that still linger to this day,
Mm-hmm.
but also like I feel good cognitive, like I could think straight and I still talk straight. And you see, there's players that play, their lifespans go down. People are dying in their 70s that played football. And it's like, but we live in a world now where you could live to be 100 years old if you take care of your body, go to the doctor, and this, that, the third. But
Yeah.
probably even for me now, all the damage I've done to my body, I probably won't live as much as a person who, man, not had that much damage to their body. So that I feel like that all went into me thinking about life outside of football and kind of focusing on my degree. And I think
Okay.
everybody, I don't have 100% figured out yet, but
Yeah.
I'm on the path. I know I'm keep going forward and just keep building and taking steps and building relationships, and
Yep.
that's what it's all about.
Very
Yeah,
well said.
yeah, for me it was like, the injuries was definitely a thing. I actually came to Wesley with a torn rotator cuff, and I didn't
Wow.
know. Never got it really
Yeah.
MRI, and never all that. That was the thing for me, and I'm just like a relentless person. You might not know what I'm going through, but a lot of times it could be like serious, like my shoulder. So anytime I make a tackle, it would be like, man, yeah, like anytime I make a tackle, my shoulder would come out of place, and it would burn like to the point where like and it would slide back in, and then I was like, I played my freshman year with that, and I was like, I need to get surgery, so I went and got surgery the off season, and I kind of missed a little bit, came back. I remember, man, that's when I really took football seriously. Like I said, I was kind of a little. I felt like I was a little conceited. I feel like people don't like to say that, but I was conceited
I have
coming
to
in.
be playing football.
Yeah,
You have to have a little cockiness to you. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's in like an alpha male sport.
It's an
like,
ego sport for
an
sure.
Ego sport. Like you gotta feel like I'm better than the person in front of me. I could dominate the person in front of me. It's like
what I mean by like conceited, like cockiness was like not putting in work. Like
bro,
Oh, so you were talented, but you didn't really have to
yeah,
put in
it's
like the work.
Yeah, I was talented. Like it was like, oh, I could run with the best. So I wasn't the fastest, but I was a good player. So it was like sometimes if you want to be better, you have to put in the work.
Mhm.
So it's like cockiness. You're not confident. It's like more of cockiness. So I was more cocky than I was confident, and it would show in my game until like I took it seriously. I was like, man, yo. After I got my spot taken as a freshman, I took everything personal.
It's a humbling experience.
It was humble. Yeah, I took everything personal to the point where it was like, yo, I got to go get this. And that kind of branched off, and I found a relationship with God for myself all over again. and I started doing like speaking engage. I started like speaking. I had this thing called Motivational Monday, and I would speak every Monday for like a whole year, like every Monday. I didn't really miss, and it was like
Yeah.
that sparked other things, like me being more than an athlete. I didn't realize that, but other
Sheesh.
than that, yeah, I came back and I broke my finger, and that was like the killer for me. I didn't
The
realize
last
it, but
straw.
that joint killed me because I was like on second team, but I would like go and get reps with first team. Like I was competing for a starting spot, and I got hurt, and that just crushed me, man. Like it took everything out of me, and I remember like that's when I found God and everything, and I started like bettering myself,
Mm-hmm.
and from there, yeah, I kind of just branched off, and now from there, I became a minister, and now I'm a youth pastor of the City of Refuge Church. So it was like, I didn't realize at the time it had to happen, So it was more so of, wow, like injuries, like your injury happened, it had to happen, I had my shot.
Yeah.
I remember I played all the way up to 2021, and I was supposed to. I was on a list to go to Delaware State, and I wasn't even playing at the time, and they had me on this roster because they knew of me before I got injured. So it was like I had to make that choice, like, yo, am I gonna let my pride or my cockiness try to get to me, or is it time to hang up the cleats? And I realized like, yo, it's time to hang up the cleats. Like I could still play, but I know personally, I need to better myself as a person. So now like I said, I started speaking and doing stuff like that. So definitely injuries was something, but it had to happen. So if you have injuries, anybody who has injuries, I played as much as I could. So now I left it on the line. So even somebody be like, oh, you quit or oh, you gave up. No, personally, I know I didn't give up. I knew it was my time to stop. So it was like more of, yo, I wouldn't recommend nobody stop playing football now, but give it all you can. I gave it all I could until I couldn't play no more. And sometimes it takes like your passion away when you get hurt or
Oh yeah.
acquisition happen. Something like it takes it out of you. It's the truth. And don't that's like even if I had younger people underneath me, I wouldn't want to hold no spot up for if I didn't want to play. Like I would personally, I'm not that type person.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, I'm done with this. Like I was just playing, and yeah,
I feel like a big thing in the black community too is like sometimes we'll down somebody for leaving a sport, leaving a sport that they played their whole life because that's all you're used to seeing them do.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was probably the hardest part for me is feeling like people are looking at me like, why'd you stop? And people always coming up to play me, you're so good, why you not out there? And it was more like, you don't know what it's like being out there. It's not football is fun, but the older you get and once you become a grown man, it becomes way more violent. That's why you see these NFL players, they retire after a while because they know I'm wearing my body down. Yes, it's great for their enjoyment and they treat you like you're a god and you're a superstar. But then it's like when football's away, everybody starts looking at you like, who are you? And that was the hardest part for me. But then that also revealed the closest people to me. Because my closest friends, they understood me. And they understood where I was coming from. And they knew I was always that person who was first in sprints, first in weight room. I was always pushed into these leadership roles. I was always a captain in high school. And I'm always was pushed into these leadership roles. And it's like I took advantage of it and I did it. And necessarily I never really wanted to be the leader, but I was forced into it. So I feel like that made it hard for people. And even sometimes, like, I look at, I don't want to say any names, but, like, there's people probably in my close family that they don't reach out to me as much anymore since I stopped playing football. I haven't seen them as much anymore. And that was the toughest part for me. But, like, good thing for me, I had a great friend group around me and my mom and my dad. They always supported me. And when I called them and told them I was thinking about walking away from football, it was this. They made sure this is exactly what I wanted to do and kind of weigh out the pros and cons. And they were okay with that because they knew at the end of the day, football is a child's game. And I think that's what we all get caught up in. Even with these NFL players, when the media is ripping them for making a mistake or getting hurt or keep getting hurt, it's like we're humans just like you. In the sport we play, it's like you're getting in a car crash every week.
Yeah.
So I think in our community and I think everybody in general could just show a little bit more empathy for athletes.
Yeah.
Past
sure.
football, even track, it's like the injuries. It's like we're doing things that your body is not naturally really made to do.
Right. For the entertainment of others.
For entertainment of others, exactly.
Yep. And just to tie everything in, to finalize this question, like you guys both said something that's like really, really like I think it's probably the main contributing factor as to why people prolong their careers as long as they do, is because when you do something for so long, it becomes a part of who you are, or you believe that it becomes a part of who you are. But I mean, the both of you said it, like through your injury and through your realization of like, okay, you know, this isn't going to sustain me for the rest of my life. You guys both realize that the time that you spent playing your sport, realize like, okay, I am more than just I'm more than just an athlete. I hold value. It's not the sport that values me. So once you get to that point, I feel like that's when you're able to come to the realization, like, all right, what else can I do outside of the sport? And I mean, here we are now, which is a really great segue into the next piece that I have, which is college graduation. So I found this really cool statistic, which was more surprising than cool. The National Center for Education Statistics found that only 30% of black male students completed a bachelor degree within 6 years. And part of the reason why I have you guys here is because we have that expensive piece of paper to hold up to say that we
did that.
Our college graduates. Yeah. So, what's a piece of advice or experience that you would want to share to encourage another black student athlete who is currently in school that might be tuning in and watching this?
I'd say, for me, man, what can I say to inspire somebody? I'd say just take your time. Like Wesley, I remember, like I said earlier, I thought that I was higher than I was for my math. Like I had to start at lower math, and sometimes you got to really figure out where you are. So figure out where you are, so you don't try to move forward or try to go too fast. And just be relentless. Like I remember even through the acquisition, man, I had to take accounting too, and man, I had to take that class 3 times just to pass it. And it was like, you gotta just keep going. Like you already there, you gotta keep going. Don't give up, and just sometimes know what you want to do. I ain't really I was an athlete, so a lot of athletes was business majors or what, sports management or sports, or I forget what.
Yep.
But it's like, you have to really know what you want to do going into college. Just know what you want to do and just stick to that. And it's okay to change. It's okay to change. Don't act like that's a bad thing. Just finish. Yeah. Finish. Especially if you 2 years in, just finish it, man. So
good advice.
One piece of advice I would give to you said a freshman, right? Basically coming in, or a younger person in college,
or in high school or middle school.
This one, in college is really think about what do you want to do. And I think sometimes as an athlete, you don't really think about what you want to do, and you get caught up in a major that you may have not really liked. But it's like I'm so deep into it now, for me to switch my major, it's gonna set me back another 2 years, and that's another $10,000-$15,000, whatever you're paying for school. I know everybody is different, but it's like really think about what you're doing, and maybe coming in undecided isn't necessarily a bad
thing, right?
And for me, I came in already knowing I wanted to be a criminal justice major. I'm doing it, and I'm working similar into a career path that's similar to criminal justice, but looking back, I maybe wanted to do sports media or something like that. But there was a realization also that, I'm so close to finishing, and it's like football is going away, and that's my main driver of me to finish school. Yeah. I mean, my family is a driver, too. Obviously, my family wanted to see me finish school, and that was a big thing for me to make sure I did it for them. But football was the one that was driving me every day. Get up, go to the study hall, get up early, go to class. And it's like I've seen a lot of students who I came in my freshman year drop out at the first, second semester because
bro.
they didn't even go to class. And
Yeah.
it's like, I could have been easily one of those because I was just partying. Like, I don't get me wrong, I had my fair share of party time too, but I knew if I don't get these grades, I'm not gonna be able to play football. So football was my number one priority. So that's why I think just knowing what you want to do is kind of like a big part of coming into college. But I also blame that on society, because in society we put all this pressure on people to go to college, but at 18 years old to make that decision, you can't really make that decision because cognitively
you're still developing. Yeah, right.
Like, I'm just seeing now like what I like and what type of people I like and stuff like that, and like I feel like my brain is almost fully developed now. But when I was 18, my decision making was still iffy. Not to say I had good morals and good foundational pieces that my parents laid down for me, like be a good person, don't hurt people and stuff like that.
Yep.
But like to make decisions on my whole future life and what I'm gonna be doing for the rest of my life, it's like
that's a big decision to make at 18
years old.
17, 18 years old, right?
I was worried about what outfit I was about to buy or what's the next pair of Jordans, like video games, Madden. It's like we were worried about that stuff, and now it's like, but really, I'm making one of the biggest decisions of my life. For sure.
Very, very good. I would say one piece of advice I would give to another young black student athlete: don't go to a PWI, bro. Do not do it. Nah, I'm messing with you. I think one piece of advice that I would give is probably just be yourself. Like that's probably the best thing that you can do. Like obviously, as you grow, there'll be little pieces that you're gonna add on to yourself, whether it's new experiences, new peoples, new I guess perceptions. But at the end of the day, stay true to your core, to who you are at your core, because people are either gonna like you or they're gonna respect you. Like at the end of the day, like you just have to make sure that you're being yourself, because I think really that's the best thing that you can do for yourself, because you know it really does allow you to see who's for you and who's against you. Like you said too, Marcus, with you know, the realization like after you stop playing sports, like people just dropped off. But at the same time too, like you know,
friends will stay around, your family, people who really care about you will still stay around. And like in college too, it's easy to get mixed up in the wrong groups because you're surrounded by thousands of people you don't know. You're by yourself. You're already feeling awkward. It's like, who do I hang out with? And you may get mixed in with the wrong crowd. And the only reason why you're messing with this crowd is because you feel like, I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to be that loner on campus.
Or I want to be accepted.
I don't want to be quote-unquote weird. Or the quote-unquote nerd. But in reality, if you're yourself, it don't matter, because at the end of the day, not everybody's going to like you, but you're going to respect me as a man.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. I seen that. I say my faith kind of made me understand that, like, who I was, because, man, I knew, like, even growing up, like, I realized, even sticking like on bullying and stuff, like, I realized, like, yo, I never really fit in with, like, certain, just one person. Like, I played football, but I was also cool with the people who didn't. Cool with the people who was called weird. Like, that's me as a person. So, like, I feel like as an athlete, you kind of get put in a box that you trying to escape, you know, because slowly but surely it's kind of defining you as a person. And that's what the hardest thing about now is breaking away from that. Like, breaking away from, you know, I'm not just an athlete, you know. Yeah, I am, like, I was an athlete. I played football, but I'm bigger than that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't want to expand, you know, outside your horizon because you feel as though it's not cool, but I feel like that's your superpower. Like, you being authentic, that's what makes you cool. And people, like, they might not everybody want to say it, but people will come like, bro, how you do this, bro? Because I've been trying to do that. I had people come like, how you stop playing football? I was like, bro, I've been wanting to do that. And people who actually play, like, starters and stuff, I'm like, man, I didn't realize that me stopping, like, can make an impact on people. And, you know, just not being scared to be different. I'm really about that. That's really me. Like, because anytime you conform to other people, you can't be yourself. Like, it's hard to be Alexis Raekwon Green. Like, I didn't even like my first name like that until, like, my sophomore year of college. I was like, man, oh my, this is my name. Like,
Yeah, facts.
like Alexis is my name, but people would pick on me so much where I felt as though I needed to be called Raekwon. And it was like, yo, I don't know that many black males named Alexis Raekwon Green. I'm different, and that's what makes you. That's your
Who you are.
superpower. Like that
Yeah.
makes you unique. And yeah, so.
I like that. I like that. All right.
Sure.
So final question, and then obviously I'll let you gentlemen go. So we talked a little bit about, you alluded to it a little bit earlier about some of the challenges and hardships faced with, finding employment after you get that degree. Of course, I did some digging, and a study that Forbes did back in 2018, 300,000 students were surveyed. Of that 300,000, only 5%, or around 60,000 of them were black graduates, and those black graduates were unemployed for a year after graduation, and only 53% were able to find full-time employment in their desired field. 53%. So of that 60,000, only around 33,000 were able to find employment. So Marcus, you and I are both working now, fortunately enough, in our desired fields. But like, what type of adversity did you face, if any, when you were finding employment in your field?
For me, it was just I didn't really find that much difficulty, but I feel like it all alludes back to like not knowing what you really want to be when you get older and when you first get into college. And it's like, for me, I chose criminal justice because I was mainly disinterested in like serial killers and crime and SVU and stuff.
Yeah, right. The glamorous stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was and it was interesting. My classes were interesting. I mean, when it got to the law side, it was a little bit more difficult.
Okay.
But then when I graduated, now I'm in a field that deals with like retail crime and stuff like that.
Oh, that's what's up.
But it's still, even now, I feel like you don't have to 100% be locked into something. And just because you have a degree, I had a degree in criminal justice, if I want to work my butt off and go be a broadcaster or make movies or do this, you could still do that. But just having a degree gets your foot into the door. And working now, it's like I enjoy my job right now. I make decent money to pass by. And me and Rex were having a conversation before the podcast started about expectations of how much money you deserve.
Oh, bro.
Fresh out of college.
Yo.
And it's like, we all think that when you graduate in this field, that you graduate with a medical degree, you're automatically going to become a brain surgeon. It doesn't work like that. You have to start from the bottom and work your way up. Well, most of the time for those type of, you have to have master's and doctorate degrees.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say this a regular business job. You're not going to be the CEO first coming in getting paid millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You may not even get paid six figures graduating college. And I think that's why so many people don't find jobs, because they're looking for the jobs that are paying for $200,000, $100,000 off rip. And I'm sure there is a couple handful of those jobs out there, but most of the time people got to start from the bottom and build your brand up. It's like being an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
When you first came into
Very
college,
good.
you weren't the best. You had to earn your stripes. And when you get into business, bro, then you get into your desired field, you got to earn your stripes again. And I think that's the fun part about moving on past football is it's all about the journey.
Yeah.
The best part about football was the journey. I mean, the journey is the best part. I mean, the stats and stuff, like, look, yeah, those are cool, but, like, those are just numbers. It was about the relationships I built with people, how it molded me as a person, and I feel like me going into this work journey now, it's going to do the same thing, but I have a different mindset going in because I just experienced more things in life.
Right.
Very, very well put. And Raekwon, you're in your master's program now. I remember we had a conversation about some of the adversity that you faced with, even getting admitted into the graduate program. So, like, share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I graduated with a business management degree, and that's pretty broad. You can work at banks and stuff, but I don't think that was me. Like, sitting at a bank, I could have might start off with $27 an hour or $30 maybe, but that wouldn't have fulfilled me. And I had to switch my major, for my master's degree because it was business administration. I'm like, that's not me. Like, I don't think that's me. And I eventually switched my major like the first week of this year, this fall semester, and it was a thing of like, yo, I looked at the curriculum and I'm like, man, it's educational leadership. Do I have to be a teacher? And it was like, yo, I didn't want to like that I can't really put it into words, but that title on me or whatever, that to make me feel like I had to, be this person. And it was like leadership. Leadership is something that I love. I feel like it makes you better as a person. I was reading the curriculum. It was like it was going to better you as a person, self-reflection. Even what I'm doing now, I'm a graduate director, and basically I deal with people.
Yeah,
and that's cool. Like, that's something that I like to talk to people. I'm an extrovert person, and it's like more of who I am. And like I said, going into that master switch, it was like I'm a week in, I'm a week behind. So it's like that mindset of me, not being ready or not being good enough. That kind of hit me like midweek. I'm like, yo, like this is not what I thought it was. I thought it was gonna be like, not saying it was gonna be easy, but it's like I had to really like continue to allow myself not to go back to that old Raekwon, like the old I had a 1.8 GPA Raekwon, I had C's in college Raekwon. Like, this is all different. This is everybody's
it's a brand new. Yeah,
it's like yesterday is not today. Like, I'm not trying to stay. Yesterday's different. I'm not trying to stay in that mindset.
Yesterday's price is not today's price, bro.
Price. It's not. And and I feel like that's one thing that when you do want to go in higher education, you kind of want to just not, like Marcus said, not try to look at the numbers and look at I want to be the top spot. It's like you're still learning. That's why you're in school. That's the number one reason why you're in school, because you're learning. And sometimes you don't get that. It's like, oh, that's why I was in school. Like, this is what it really is. And
it's like, duh, you don't know all the answers because you're in school.
Right.
That's what you're trying to learn. I think people think your ego sometimes will tell you, I know everything. This is simple. I know this. I seen it on TV or something like that. And then it's like, it's basically your ego is telling you, like, I already know this. But then when you go into a classroom and then they actually have you read it and take this test, you're like, do I really know this stuff?
Yeah.
Or was I just telling myself I knew this stuff? And back to the thing you were saying, it's like, the mindset I'm in now is like, I don't want to be around no people that haven't evolved. If you're staying stagnant, it's like, me and you are on different life paths now. Not saying that you have to be rich. It has nothing to do with money. But you shouldn't be the same person and act the same way as we were in high school as a freshman, as we are now as grown men. And if you are like that still, it's like, that's when I start dropping people off. And it's nothing personal. It's just, I want to see myself elevate, and I want to be around people who want to elevate.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yes, man. I remember, man, like he said his story, he didn't, like, tell your story how you was about to,
So basically, Coach would always have me tell this story. This is when I was in a leadership role. Basically, like, this is when I basically got everything together. And Rex know, too, like, I eventually became the SGA president at Wesley College. Which for me is one of my biggest feats. And I really think back on it now, like, wow, I was really the student government president of a college. And I never saw myself doing that when I was a freshman. And that's why I always give credit to Rex. But I think if I never got into the Black Student Union, I would have never even expanded past football. But back to the story, now coaches always tell me to tell my story about how basically, like, I almost failed out of school, and I had to learn how to get my stuff together, and I feel like I was just making bad decisions when I first got into college. Even outside of school, some of the people I hang around with and the decisions I was making, it's just it put me in bad positions. And then, like I said, there's always room to elevate. And at some point, I knew, like, I gotta change my ways. Like, everybody looks at me as this leader, and I'm not doing what a leader should be doing. So how can I lead a whole bunch of grown men if I'm not even leading by example first? So that's when I started leading by example, and it was more. You don't understand how much motivation this the team and the coaches gave me to do better in school and to be a good person and try to help everybody out. And I feel like that's why everybody kind of gravitated towards my story, because it relates to a lot of young black men, especially like where we come to school and we're not always the best students. And I'm not saying I was the best student through my whole college career, but I know that if you put your mind to it, you're capable to do it, and that's for everybody. I don't care if you had a 1 GPA in high school. If you put your mind to it, school is all about effort.
Bro, yes.
Effort.
100%.
You got to put effort into it. You can't just expect to pass every class, to pass every test, and to retain all this knowledge without putting in the effort of studying or doing the homework on time.
Yeah.
And that stuff carries on into the business world and the work world, because when you start getting paid money, everybody wants all this money, but there's more responsibilities. And if you're not going to put in that effort to do your job,
someone else will do it for you.
Someone else will do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very.
That's all I got.
Very well said. Very well said. So I'm really glad that we had this conversation, this dialogue, because again, like, you don't really realize how impactful your story is until like you actually start telling it. And I'm pretty sure at the time when your coaches had you doing that, Marcus, you were probably like, yo, why did they got me doing this
Every time. We'll be right in the gym, or we'll be
at
in
the hard
practice, and they'll be like, Marcus, stand up. I'm just like, bro, I'm tired. I stink, bro.
Right.
I'm sweaty. I'm about to tell the story, though, because I knew, for them, they knew that it would resonate to one of these young freshmen that are struggling right now.
Right. And I'll be honest, like, that's part of the reason why I'm doing the podcast and allowing other people to like share their stories, because you never know whose lives are gonna impact. Like, you telling your story, like, and you in your mind you'll be like, oh, okay, well, like, it's just something that I had to go through. But in actuality, like, not many people have survived or been through or even gotten to the places that we're at right now. Again, only 30% of black males students graduate with a bachelor degree. So, and we're privileged. Like, my mentor was telling me this earlier today. He was like, you guys are privileged. Like, you have a bachelor's degree. You have a clean record. You don't have any kids. Like, you don't have any baby mama drama. Like, you're in a very privileged position. So, like, don't be afraid to tell your story, because there's someone else out there, even though it's not portrayed like that in the media, but like, there's someone out there that looks like us, that acts like us, that has a very similar story, who believes like, oh, I'm just going through this by myself. But through sharing our experiences, through telling our stories, like, that helps encourage somebody else. And one of my biggest philosophies is, while I'm climbing up the ladder, I'm gonna try and bring someone else up with me while I'm going up. So I'm just,
and you can see that for you, and I can say that towards you. Right? You necessarily might have not pushed me to get through college, but you pushed me to do something different than football, and that kind of changed my whole trajectory of life. It made me a better leader, and then I was able to pull someone else up. And Raekwon was able to pull someone else up. And that's how we're going to come together as the black community to be powerful. And people don't like to think about it like that. It's not black versus white or any of that. I'm black and white myself, so I understand both sides. That's probably my biggest blessing in life. I've seen both sides of everything.
Right.
But we do live in a country where black people are oppressed.
Yeah.
And if we don't help each other get up, nobody else is going to do it. Let's just put it like that.
Very well said. Very well said. Well, that's all I got for today. Again, I definitely appreciate you gentlemen for coming out and, deciding to do this. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, that pretty much concludes today's episode. I want to thank all of y'all for tuning in to Kinkstales. Remember, we will be continuing to do this. We have another episode dropping next month, so just be on the lookout for that. Next month is anti-bullying month, so I'm definitely looking forward to, putting together content and doing the research and sharing that episode with you guys. And it's going to be powerful. So, again, don't be afraid to share your story, because you never know whose life is going to impact. I definitely do pray that this is able to reach somebody and help them along in their journey. Yes. But without further ado, that concludes today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful, blessed day, and I'll see you guys later.